You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week, I'm stoked for this one. This was an awesome conversation. I got on Cade Cole, and if you haven't heard of Cade, you got to go check him out. So Cade was on Alone, the TV show. He was on season 10, and he is also a hunting guide, just awesome backcountry hunter. He's out of Wyoming, and he has a pretty sweet YouTube channel. You guys got to go check out his content. So he's just big on the old school, primitive style of doing things. Really into like the whole mountain men era. And I think it was like last year. I've never talked to Cade before, but I think I was following him after I saw him on Alone. And I watched his YouTube video he put out called Archaic. And it's an elk hunt he put on his YouTube, and it was probably the most badass thing I've ever seen. Not to pump him up too much, but dude, seriously, goes into the Wyoming backcountry up in the mountains in, I think he said late October, goes up there with his stick bow. He's bareback with his horse. He's got no food, no water, no way to filter water, no water container, no way to start a fire besides friction. Didn't have any modern gear, just had no tent, no sleeping bag. He just had like a tanned elk hide, and he just sleep on the ground, and that was it. So just like how the frontiersmen, the mountain men, the Native Americans did it, that's how he did it for this elk film. And spoiler alert, I mean, he tags out on a bull. It's pretty sweet. So I watched that film, and then I saw his other stuff, and I remember seeing him on Alone, and I was just so stoked to get him on. So we talk about his time on Alone. We talk about, that elk hunt and other hunts he's done. We talk a lot about, and I wanted to get into like the mindset he has with a lot of these things and just challenging yourself, developing this mental strength to do these things. And I just think stuff like this is so powerful. That's why I kind of like watching Alone and maybe reading about the mountain men. I love that whole era as well. But man, if you're listening to this and you're on your way to your elk hunt and you're going out for 7 days, and this is just a powerful episode to listen to and a guy to think about, because that perspective of what he has gone through on Alone, and then you can think about the mountain men, like that's how they live their lives. Like didn't have any of the modern gear, had to just struggle all the time in the mountains. And point is, yeah, if you're going on your elk hunt and you're getting your butt kicked on day 3 or 4, I like to just think about, guys like Cade, like what they do, or like the mountain men and people on Alone, where it's like way harder, way less stuff. And I think perspective is a powerful thing. You can really shift your mindset to be like, okay, this isn't as bad as those guys, how they do it, suck it up and keep going. So I really enjoyed chopping it up with Cade. I hope you guys like this one. At the time of this recording, I will be on the mountain, thank God. Just out of service, glassing up mule deer, hopefully tagged out at this point, and probably will have a few days left in Colorado and then head to Idaho to hunt elk. So that's where I'll be once this drops and you're listening. And yeah, guys, it's here. It's September right now. So maybe you're on your way out to hunt elk right now and you're listening to this on your drive, or you're just getting ready to leave. Man, like this is what we live for. This is the time of year. It's here. It's exciting. I wish everybody the best of luck this fall. And I love just getting random messages from guys just talking about their hunts or just sending pictures and chopping it up, and I will gladly share them on my platforms too. If you guys want to send them to me or tag Run the Rack, whatever, anything like that. I want to hear about everybody's fall. I love seeing, grip and grins of the DIY backcountry hunter that just gets it done on public land. Like that shit is awesome. So yeah, feel free to reach out. Again, best of luck to everybody, and hope everybody has a kick butt September. So let's have another great week, everybody. Let's leave no doubt. Let's work as hard as we can, and let's run the rack. All right, enjoy this one with Cade. All right, see you guys. Go Hunt has a single purpose: make it easier for hunters to get into the field. Hunting tags are only getting harder to obtain, and Go Hunt is a research platform helping navigate the ins and outs of drawing tags and researching hunts across the West. I've had a Go Hunt membership for years now, and I'm a big fan of the articles written on there by Brady and Trail. The content is next level stuff that has helped me a ton. From animal behavior to archery, they are sharing all the nuggets. I also love the hunt films on YouTube. They are extremely inspirational, and they'll make you want to get out in the mountains ASAP. Check out the Go Hunt Gear Shop, where they have everything you need for this coming hunting season. Use the code RACK, that's R-A-C-K, for 10% off eligible items in the shop. And you can use the code RACK for $50 in-shop credit when you join as an insider. So sign up for a membership and immediately get $50 back toward hunting gear. Check it out, you won't regret it. Mountain Tough produces industry-leading functional fitness programming tested and proven by backcountry hunters and mountain athletes. Mountain Tough's programming allows users to train at home, at the gym, or on the go. These videos are like having a personal trainer right there with you every workout, wherever you are. Guys, I've been rocking the Mountain Tough workouts this past summer. I've been doing the mountain strength workouts as I'm putting on a ton of miles prepping for my 100-mile ultramarathon. This way, I'm going to be totally ready for hunting season once September comes around. There's also so much more video content on the app, including nutrition, yoga, mental health, and one of my personal favorites is the daily mobility. Use code RACK for 1 free month on the app. That's RACK, R-A-C-K, for 1 entire free month to try it out. Give it a look, and let's get Mountain Tough. Yeah, dude. I loved Alone when it started. I haven't kept up with it. I think your season was probably one of the last seasons I watched. Because where were you guys at?
We were in northern Saskatchewan.
Okay.
So it's kind of it was still up in that like cold, like Arctic type situation, but slightly different.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do remember watching you on there. I haven't kept up with it lately because I think right now there's a season going on there in Africa. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I bet it's pretty good though. I've got some friends that kind of keep me in the loop on all of it.
That's sweet. But I love the Alone show. Like I remember, I don't think I caught it when it first came out, but like after the first few seasons. And I remember like when that season 3 or 4, when that Jordan Jonas won, and then that's when I got hooked. I was like, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but like Alone, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I have just so much more respect for people that go out there and do that. And every time I go out to like elk hunt in Colorado for a week, all the gear, all the food, like you're really not like within a day you can always get back to civilization. But when I see like people out there like that, it's dude, it's next level.
Yeah, Alone is fun, man. It's an interesting like experiment because you're out in a really foreign environment. I don't think enough people appreciate that. You're in a very foreign environment and you're trying to make it work with like very, very limited tools and a limited understanding of the environment itself and all that. And I do think that there's a unique appreciation for the show and the concept from backcountry hunters because everybody has a taste of it and they know what it's like to really grind it out for a couple of days. And so it kind of like it reinforces that appreciation for guys that are like, oh man, I know what it's like to do that for like 4 or 5 days. Like I can't imagine doing it for, like weeks and weeks.
Yeah, and maybe you're usually with a buddy when somebody's doing it on their over-the-counter tag in Colorado, and they're not quite as remote. They have way better gear, or like just more gear in general, and food. Like that's the other thing I can't wrap my head around. Like my friends that don't hunt would be like, "Oh, would you ever do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, I I like going out and like just being dialed in with gear so I can just hunt." Like, and I couldn't imagine not the food thing would probably drive me nuts. I've done solo hunts out west for like I think 10 days was the longest one, but I still move spots. Like, it's not the same. I'm not even trying to like paint that picture, but it's just so cool, dude. And I just have so much more respect for, because people that have no idea would always be like, well, I'm sure I could do at least that or a few days. And it's like, no, you can't. No way.
Yeah, yeah, it's really funny. Like that's the best part. That was the best part for me of Alone was like the introduction. Well, there was a couple of things, but one of the biggest things was the introduction to reality TV and exposure. And it's like I had a very, I wouldn't say 50-50, but I had a very polar experience. I had people that have never spent any time outside, right? And they're couch potatoes and they watch this TV show, and then they're like, "Oh man, you're a loser." And then I had other people that a lot of people, just went to social media and stuff and looked at me and they're like, "Oh man, I really appreciate what you do, and I appreciate your perspective because I didn't want to gain a bunch of weight and do all that stuff." And honestly, from a realistic aspect of my like uh experience being a hunting guide, I know how much of it is luck. Your area for Alone is like 2 miles by 5 miles. So it's a pretty small area. And so, okay, I have this limited little area to work with. It's either going to happen or it isn't. And I'm just going to set my ego aside and say, I'm going to try as hard as I can for as long as I can. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't. And if it does, it's going to work out great.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the way I went for it. And I'm really glad that so many people seem to appreciate that out of the show.
Yeah. So I have just a few notes here, but I like to just kind of just chop it up naturally. And I want to get into also, if people listening have not seen your YouTube channel, it is just badass. There's an elk film that when it came out, that's when I first messaged Cole like a while ago or Cade, I'm sorry, when that came
Okay.
out. Um, it's called Archaic, and that's just like, and we'll get into that. But since I'll save that for a little bit. But since we're talking about Alone, just keep going down the rabbit hole here. Um, so going into that, like you've had a ton of experience guiding. I think you've been guiding for a decent bit out there in Wyoming.
Yeah, about 10 years.
Okay. So what was kind of like your mindset going into Alone? Like what was your main missions? Like how did you want to play the game? Because I've seen people go into Alone saying, just going to conserve calories, well rest. Other guys right out of the gate, they're like, I'm building a freaking big structure. And yeah, what were you thinking?
Yeah, my game plan going into it was I had a really good focused idea. I just needed the resources to work. I knew from guiding archery moose hunts and stuff like that that like moose are pretty dumb. Bears can be obviously very hard to hunt. So originally my plan going into it was I was going to try to find some moose, be able to, capitalize on that opportunity right out of the gate. I wasn't going to build a shelter. I wasn't going to worry about fire. I wasn't going to worry about any of that stuff until I could figure out what kind of resources that I had on my island. And because of that, for the first 2 days essentially that I dropped me off, I didn't do anything but just still hunt. I just still hunted a very, very small circle and tried to establish sign and all those things. And that's how I ended up finding big, substantial tracks. I thought maybe it was a small moose, and tracked them down. And then I ended up calling in that caribou, which is pretty heartbreaking because it's like I could have shot that thing, it's just how it goes, right?
I remember you couldn't
From
hunt
a
them, right? That's what it
No,
was?
it was against the rules. It was against the rules. So,
Yeah.
but that's okay. It was almost. I'm almost really thankful for it. I am really thankful for it because my experience would have been totally different had I killed that thing. And then it would have been like it would have just been like another hunt. And instead, it became this really cool experience for me to kind of torture myself and push myself to that limit and figure out what it's like to really starve and just try to solve all those little problems. And it's a really humbling experience that a lot of people don't get, to go into the wilderness like that and push yourself to failure and not have a really a way out. I mean, I could have pressed the button, but I thought like, here's my chance. I have a safety net. I have these people that are willing to come get me if I take it to that point. So let's just take it to that point. And I'm super glad that I did, because I mean, how many people in the history of planet Earth ever get to take it that far and then survive?
Right. Right. Definitely unique experience. I just think it's so cool just watching it. And it makes sense. You were saying looking for a moose right away. Because it seemed like over the years, commonality with the winners, not always, but they did get some sort of big game on the ground. I remember Jordan killed that moose in the one season. Now the other dude killed that muskox, and
Yeah.
it seemed like that's what the show was kind of more catering to as it went on. Like people, maybe in the beginning, I remember people weren't always bringing a bow, but then it catered to like everybody had a recurve and was going after big game, which is so awesome to watch. As like backcountry hunters watching.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting because like when they first started the show, you could tell that they didn't necessarily know exactly who to cast. And then as the season, no offense to the earlier seasons, but as the seasons went on, definitely the talent overall of the cast got better, and everybody had their strengths and weaknesses. But definitely something to be said that production saw the value in people wanting to see big animals killed and stuff like that, and they tried to pick some locations that would do well with that. Unfortunately, it's really hard for them to have to pick an area where they have enough resources to keep the camera, like the editing equipment and the safety team and all those things. And so they're pretty limited on areas where they can actually film the show. But they've done a really good job, in my opinion, about picking places that have resources. I just unfortunately, like, for my season, I just didn't have a great spot. But I mean, that's kind of like part of the luck of it too, though.
Right.
I mean, it happens to me now still. Like, I pick a unit that I want to go hunt. And once again, that goes to that appreciation that backcountry hunters have for the show that's unique. Because we all know what it's like to pick a unit and be like, oh man, I'm going to go hunt that. It looks so good. Then you get back there and there's just nothing. And you're like,
Right.
wow, man.
Because it's like it's an interesting concept because it's like you're all playing this game and you think like all these variables would be fixed, but they're not. Like everybody's in their own spot, and so people can go watch it. It's really cool. Alone's like I don't have cable, but like I've totally just went on History Channel and like you can watch all the seasons. You guys can watch Cade. Spoiler alert. That's kind of what ended up happening though, right? Just really tough time getting on
Yeah, I
trying
just
to
I
catch.
just starved to death, man. I ended up it's kind of a silly thing. My only really like complaint with the show is that after the caribou and everything, it was like day 10 or something like that. I popped my quiver off my bow,
I was gonna ask you
and
about that.
yeah. And so anyway, I lost. So I only brought a couple of blunt tips because I brought a bunch of broadheads, figuring I could pop the broadheads off and then just make my own blunt tips, and I wouldn't be like wasting. I wouldn't be short broadheads or whatever. And so, anyways, I lost my blunt tips, and but I was able to find some of my like big game broadhead arrows, but they just decided to edit it where like I never found any arrows, which kind of annoyed me. But they were like, oh well, production thought it'd be more intense, if you just like never found them. So so I
Oh,
never.
okay. So you did
So they,
find you found the broadheads, or you did find the
yeah,
arrows?
yeah, I just didn't have any blunt tips, so that's why I had.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
why I
I got you.
made
I
it.
got you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Okay.
didn't want to risk losing my good. I was like, man, if I see a moose or a bear or something, like
Right.
I gotta have these. So I was hoarding those, and but then I made a bunch out of spruce, and I ended up killing like 16 small game animals with the arrows that I made, and they didn't really show any of that footage, which is kind of lame, but it was super cool nonetheless. I had a lot of fun, and it was super empowering to like make
Yeah,
wood arrows over the fire, and kill stuff with them.
dude. Yeah, so cool. Like, I do want to get into like the mental a little bit because I talk a little bit about personal development on here, and I think that can help guys more than upgrading their
For
bow every
sure.
year or something. Just having the right mindset. So it's like that was kind of early on, right? Like you're walking around still hunting, and you lose that quiver, and it's I like I lose my keys in my house and like I get pissed off. Like that was you know what I mean? Like just take us there. Like what how
Yeah,
did you like just get over that and be like we're going to figure this out. I'm going to make
that
my own arrows.
yeah, the edit on that was really funny because they showed me throwing a temper tantrum was pretty bad. And what happened was, man, is like for anybody that's watching this that has ever been alder surfing, I got stuck in these like willowy, aldery, blueberry patch things in this like knee deep swamp, and that's how I lost my quiver. Was I was like trying to like wade my way through this like just pure bog that was like trying to pull my boots off. And I was like all tangled up. And you're just like stuck with your bow and you're like, I can't move. And anyway, so I finally got out of that thing. I'm not filming, I'm not doing anything. Like I've got cameras and shit tied to me, and I'm just like trying to get through this thing. And I'm like, this is so dumb. I'm burning so many calories. And then I pop out the other side, turn the camera on, start walking. I'm like, all right, I better look for something to hunt. And I look down at my bow, and that's when that's when I had my temper tantrum. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I
Yeah.
lost my quiver. And so anyway, that's why I had my blow up, and I was like, well, okay, like I'm not just gonna like turn around and go back in, which is like this is a learning opportunity for guys. When you're out in the woods, over the course of my career, I've lost a lot of stuff, watched hunters lose a lot of stuff. Like the worst thing that you can do is turn around and backtrack. It's the worst thing that you can do. You got to take a break, compose yourself, go back to the beginning of where you started and retrace your steps in the correct direction. Because what happens is when you turn around, you create false landmarks. And you start questioning yourself, and then you convolute your tracks by stepping on them, and you're like, is that the track that I just made, or is that one of my tracks from earlier? And then all it does is once you make that one little confusion there, you're lost, and you can't recreate the situation because now you've got all these extra tracks. So anyway, they were able to edit that in a pretty intense manner. But that's what I did. I went back to my shelter. I ate a squirrel, built a fire, and I was like, okay, tomorrow I'll go look. And I woke up in the morning and I went to go look for my arrows, and I jumped a grouse and I didn't have any arrows. And I was like, okay, this is stupid. So I went back to my shelter and I tried to make like a little just crappy arrow, and I was like, okay, well at least I have an arrow in case I see something. And anyway, I like looked and looked and looked, and I ended up killing a grouse with that arrow. And after I killed the grouse with the arrow, I was like, okay, all right, like I'm still in this thing. So I ended up going on, and I think it was actually the next day that I found the pieces of quiver. I still got the quiver. I actually still keep it on my bow. But I found it, and then like the two arrows with the broadheads, and I was like, okay, all right, in that waist deep, like knee deep swamp. And so at that point, I was like, I'm good. I can get by with my blunt tips, and I've got two big game arrows. I mean, realistically, I only need one. Quit burning calories, get back in the game. And that was where my mind was at on that. And I wish they had edited that to be more truthful as to what it was. But I mean, obviously they've got like a #1 rated television show, so they probably don't need my advice on any of
Yeah,
that.
dude, there's probably so much you could pick apart, and I don't blame you because it's like obviously you were there. But you know, it's still awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I just I think for context to people listening, so like I mean, you're out there, there's no food, you get your 10 items, you're alone obviously. Like you got to the point I remember day 20 something. You're just craving fat and you took a bite out of your belt.
Oh yeah, that man. One more editing thing. Yeah. So my buddy made me that belt, and I soaked it in the oven in olive oil for like until before I went on the show. So it just like bled olive oil.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, and so what it was I had a squirrel in my pot and some mushrooms, and I threw the piece of belt in to like help oil up the pot and just get some extra calories out of it. And when I got down to the bottom of it, I was like, well, I might as well try eating the belt. And it tasted so bad that they were just like edited out and took that like 3 second clip of me doing on my belt, which is funny because I still have people. I had somebody the other day that was like, hey, I recognize you. You had your belt on TV. You know, I was like, oh yeah, man,
Yep.
that was me.
You're that guy. That's your thing from the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how many days was it in total?
I think it was 23.
Yeah. Dude, that's a long time. And that's a
It was a
long
long time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost 32 pounds. So when I came out, I weighed 128 pounds, which I'm like 5'8". So as you can imagine, 5'8", 128 pounds, and like I
Oh
went
my
in the same
God.
physical fitness level that I am now. I'm a pretty lean guy, and I got a ton of I got a ton of crap from the internet on that, on people that were like, why wouldn't that guy gain weight before he goes on that show? It's like, man, if like, how am I gonna guide spring spot and stalk bear hunts in the mountains and also gain weight for this television show? Like, it's not possible. And
Right.
it was, it kind of annoyed me that I was getting ready to go do this thing, which is essentially kind of just a more primitive version of what I already do for a living, to go on the show. And I'm like, well, it's unfair that like these other people are, they have like 9 to 5 jobs and they can just sit at their desk and drink gallons of milk and olive oil. And I'm like trying to carry some dude's rifle up a mountain and like pack dead bears off the side of the
Yeah.
mountain
You're
and
like, I gotta
also
leave in
prepping.
3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, I'm living it. Like I can't gain any weight because I'm living it, you know.
hmm And
So
to you, like you had the experience. This is so much of what you do already. Why, like, why change anything? You're going into this. Obviously it's a little different, but feeling your best, I'm sure. And you had the mindset of going right in and taking some big game like anyway. Like I don't know. Like I could
yeah,
see where
I'm
you're
just
coming from. Where it's like this is just what I do. I'm not trying to. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. And that's why, like I said, I put my ego to the side. I said, I'm going to set my ego to the side and I'm going to go try as hard as I can to do what I know how to do. And I
Mhm.
just tried to lean into that real hard. And I wasn't catching any fish with my gill net or anything. So it's like, man, I am killing grouse and there's always a chance that something slips up. It happens all the time. I'd be on a 7 day elk hunt, and it's the evening of day 7 that I finally find that bull. Or it doesn't matter. It happens all the time. So that kind of kept me driving forward throughout the show. That I'm like, well, today could be the day. Something wandered in. I got to try.
Yeah. So 23 days on alone. What could you say you learned about yourself? Anything mentally,
You know, I,
spiritually
I,
from that experience?
yeah, yeah. When I finished the show, I was kind of like, I was frustrated, obviously, and I had a lot of inner turmoil about, not necessarily about my performance, but I had a lot of inner turmoil with the fact that really honestly surrounding the caribou, and then I kind of had found a way to make excuses for myself, and I kept saying like, well, if I could have done this or if I could have done that, and I didn't like that about it. Uh, so I struggled a little bit with that, but the one thing that I will say that I probably learned and opened my eyes a little bit to myself and who I really am was that I always had that concept built in my mind. Everybody does, about like, oh, I'm tough, right? Everybody wants to think like I'm tough, like I'm mentally tough. I can do this, I can do that, and it was really after I got home that I actually I was sitting, I was butchering an elk that I killed after I got home actually, and I was like, you know what? I'm really proud of myself because I told myself I would go as far as I could go, and if it happened, it happened, and if it didn't, it didn't. And I didn't get frustrated, and I failed, and I failed with like pride. I failed with pride. I failed with dignity. I failed doing the best that I could do, and I was able to push myself to that point and not give up beforehand because I was down or frustrated or whatever. And so it's like a big eye opening point for me that I was like, hey, the person that I always wanted to be, I think that I am capable of being that person.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing way to look at it too. Like you took a lot away from it and still understand that like there's even more to do and learn and grow into the person you want to be. And dude, I like can't relate to alone, but as you're talking here, I just came off of like I said, before we talked, I'm big in the endurance running. I was going for my first 100-mile race. My
Ooh.
ego, yeah. um I've done decent in marathons and some longer ultras. Um but this was my first 100. My ego probably got a little bit ahead of me. I was like, I don't want to just run this 100. I want to run it like with the top guys. I did very well for a while. My knee absolutely blew up. I'm waiting on the MRI results or whatever. Mile 70, I could not run anymore, and I, I never would have thought in a million years that I wouldn't finish this race. It was like, how well am I going to finish this race? Like, 'cause, I mean, I trained hard and everything. I was at mile 70. I had the medics like wrap up my knee, and I was like, I'm going until I can't go anymore. I'm walking this next 30 miles. I don't care. I went 10 more miles and couldn't take another step on my knee. I did DNF at that point, 80 miles in. And I have, like, just as you're talking there, that's just how I could kind of relate to where it's like, I do say that, like, I did fail. Like, I didn't win, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. But there was part of me was like, dude, I gave it all. Like, I left it all out there. And there's a little bit of, I don't know if the word satisfaction, but there's nothing else more you can do. It's like you give
Oh,
it.
I think it's more satisfying. It's more satisfying. More people need to know that. More people need to see that example in their own life and say that, like, your failures can be more satisfying than a victory. If you had just gone and done that 100 miles and you'd have blazed through it, you'd be like, man, that wasn't like, I'm hot shit. But you
Right.
hit that, like, where you're like, okay, I'm hurting, but I'm gonna grind it out. And you just go until you can't anymore, and it forces you to come to that realization, like you did, that you're like, man, I'm proud of myself because, like, I took this with grace, and I busted my ass, and I grinded until I just couldn't anymore, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it helps you keep that ego at bay, right?
Right. And I think sometimes that's healthy, especially for men, to check their ego a little bit, push your limit. Okay, like, I found it, but that's just my limit on that day. Like, now I look at it as, and I'm sure you're the same way after that experience, like, whoa, okay, this also taught me I have so much more I can learn and grow and become better at. To where next year my mind's already like, if I would have blazed through that 100, my training next year for the next time I want to do it probably would be the same. But now that I had that experience, my training next year is going to be like way harder, like way better. I want to just keep learning and getting better at it so much to where, like, this second attempt at this 100 is going to be so much better than what it would have been if I did well on this one. So it's
Right,
like,
for sure. For
yeah,
sure. And you know when you're starting to meet those tipping points too.
yeah, yeah. So just something I took from there. I think you got a good mindset for it. And the other thing though I wanted to bring up, like, I don't know, dude. It looks so, you could never broadcast the show and really have the viewer understand what it's like to be out there that long. Just on the couple hunts I did where I went and spiked out solo for a little bit at a time. Like, oh, dude, I was in Idaho last year, late season, like end of October, rifle mule deer. Pretty much the only bucks I'd see would be like right at last light. And those days by yourself are just so long. And I couldn't imagine doing 20 some in a row. I don't know, dude. Like, how do you, like, what are some things you use to kind of get through that? Like, just, can you just talk a little bit about the mindset with it?
Man, it's hard. It's hard. Like, mentally, it's hard. There's different routes, and for a lot of people, the activities that they choose to do kind of fill that need for, social activity and all those different things. And so that's why people build cabins like that for so many days until they're just like done. Because once they complete that activity, there's nothing to occupy their mental space anymore, and so they just kind of fall apart. For me, I tried to occupy it with trying to gather resources. I was constantly trying to fish, or I was trying to hunt, or I was like thinking about things or strategizing, or a good way that I could conserve calories was by still hunting very slow. Yes, I take 2 or 3 steps, very slow. Like, okay, now I'm looking for animals. I'm looking for grouse or squirrels, or I'm pissed about caribou or whatever. I mean, like, you're trying to be proactive. You just have to be able to fill your mental space, and then you have to be able to understand that it's not forever. And I think that's a big issue with alone. And that was is an honestly an interesting deal for me because I didn't have the resources to outlast my mental capacity. And I know that going into it, just because of the life that I've lived, that my mental capacity was a lot higher just than the average person's because I had spent a lot of time alone in the wilderness, for even weeks at a time, just out here hunting and stuff. And so it's an interesting thing getting comfortable with being by yourself and that isolation. And a lot of people, they've never had that experience before the show, so they have to find those activities and they just burn themselves out.
Yeah. just finding ways to occupy the mind, I guess.
Hmm.
And it's like anything. I'm sure it's a skill that you can get better at, and you've had a ton of experience doing that. Because how old are you, by the way?
I'm 31. Just turned
Okay,
31.
and in Wyoming, when did you start, or when did you head up there and start kind of doing these backcountry hunts and guiding and
I
stuff?
started doing backcountry hunts and stuff out here in like 2014 or something.
Okay,
And then so it's been like 11 years now. I came up here in 2014 and I started doing elk hunts. Before that, I had been doing hog hunts in Texas and just kind of like I was homeless for a while, lived on the beach. Like I kind of just like had a really weird life as a teenager and stuff. And then so I just had a lot of appreciation for being alone with myself and kind of occupying time and all those things. And then obviously 10 years or whatever of guiding hunts certainly helped was, just being comfortable in the woods.
you think kind of all that experience growing up to that point in your life, and you were going into the show, did you kind of have this like thought of like, this everything I went through kind of like prepared me for this?
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is something I talk about a lot. That the way that they sell the show to you about being a contestant and all these things, I thought like this is going to be a really amazing chance for me to put myself to the ultimate test and test my skills and do all these things. And then I got there and I saw that my area was like 2 miles by 5 miles, and I wasn't allowed to shoot caribou, and I wasn't allowed to use like a gill net that was, smaller than 5 inches, and this and that and all these things. And you get all these rules and things. And I was really bummed out even before I went out on the show. Like, man, I wanted this to be like the ultimate test of my skill set that I've gathered, and it kind of feels like I'm shoelaced, and now I'm going to be on TV and I'm kind of shoeless. And that is where I decided that I was like, I need to do this. Like after, like while I was on the show, I was like, I need to do this and make my own film and try to actually put it to the test and share it with people because I've always wanted to do it, but I could totally film it and do a good job. And
Mm.
that's where Archaic was born, basically.
Okay, perfect segue because I want to dive into that. So I watched this film that came out. Was it last year? Beginning of this year?
Yeah, yeah. Last November or something.
Okay, yeah. And I have never talked to Cade before. I think I was just following you, maybe from after watching you on Alone, and I saw maybe you posted the thumbnail or just a picture of the bull at least. Maybe I saw that, and then I saw you posted the YouTube or whatever. And the guy's got a recurve up in the mountains with some snow. Just looks like a mountain man. He's not wearing Sitka or anything like that. Just like very like old school. And I watched this hunt film, and I've always been more and more infatuated with like when it comes to backcountry hunting. I like to look up to kind of like the mountain men era a little bit more so than like influencer so and so with like all the high tech gear. Like I just love, you know, that side of it, and that's kind of like where my mind goes when I'm out there. Like how cool to kind of do something similar to like guys like Hugh Glass and Jedediah Smith and people like that, like kind of how they lived. But obviously I got all the gear. I can't really relate, like not how you can. But anyway, so Cade puts out this film, and like, dude, let me know if I'm missing anything. So you're going up in the mountains for elk. You're uh, on horses, bareback. No food, no water, no water filter, no water container, which like sounds like the biggest pain in the ass. Um, no real gear, just your stick bow. And I don't. What am I missing? Oh, and the
That was
elk hide just for like a blanket.
Yeah. I used the elk hide that I tanned. I guided that bull like a week before, and I was like, "Hey man, do you mind if I keep this elk hide?" And he was like, "Yeah, what are you gonna use it for?" And I was like, "I'm gonna use it for a sleeping bag next week for my personal hunt." And he like looked at me. He was like, "You're fucking crazy." I was like, "Oh, just wait till the film comes out, buddy."
Yeah,
Uh,
dude. So I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is. I don't know how you make it any harder, but I don't even like. I like to think of it too. Like this is like the purest way as well, and this is. I don't know how much more, you know, big leagues you can get than this. So it's like watching you go up on the mountain and you're spotting stock. And then I want to ask you that too. So there's snow and stuff. When was this? Because this wasn't
It was
September, was it?
actually, man, it was a really dry year last year. It was like the last week of October,
Wow.
actually.
Okay. Well, spoiler alert, people got to go watch it. And then like just filming it too, I know is like work, and you made it
Oh,
very good. But yeah, and you arrow this bull, and it's just like I don't know how much more you can get than that. Like just doing it. So talk a little bit about that film. Why? What drove you to do that? Where that idea come from? And is that a typical fall for you? Like what was that like?
man, so it's funny because since I had people that watched the film, like guys that I guided like 6, 7 years ago, that called me. And one of them actually did. I guided him like 6 or 7 years ago. He called me and he was like, "You finally did it." That's what he said. I answered the phone. I was like, "What's up, Pete?" And he's like, "You finally did it." And I was like, "I finally did what?" And he's like, "I just watched your film. You finally did it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome." Because I had been talking about with hunters over the years. I've been talking about how cool it must have been for that small time period where the Indians out here they didn't have anything, right? But they had horses left over from the Spanish, right? And they had their stone tools, and they had, their like primitive items, and they were going out and they were hunting out. And how much better on average hunters they were. The guy that thinks he's a great hunter nowadays, he was nothing. Like they would look at you like you're, just
Oh,
a
so
like
soft. Yeah.
yeah, like you're handicapped. They'd be like, "What is wrong with this guy? He knows nothing." But so I always admired that, and I thought, okay, here's a really cool opportunity. When I was on alone, I was like, I'm learning how to film artistically and kind of absorbing the way that they edit these things after I saw the show, and it was interesting to see myself edited in a way that was artistic using the footage that I took, and I saw what they took and how they used it, and I kind of picked up on some of the timing and those things, and I wanted to put that to work. And so I made my first film was that 80 Mile Elk film, and it was very well received. I didn't realize how many people even watched it until somebody was like, "Hey man, your YouTube video's got like 200,000 views," and I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." So, anyways, I knew that whatever I did, it would be well received as long as I could edit it properly, and then I could try to present the message that I wanted to present. And that was the thing about Archaic was I didn't want the message to be we're gonna go out and shoot a monster bull elk and that's cool. Like that wasn't what I wanted because that's what all the hunt films are, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's all guys that are like, we're gonna go out and we're gonna have like convenient product placement and we're gonna kill this like giant bull and we're all gonna be happy and we're gonna look like little social media influencer robots and it's gonna be Instagram reel after Instagram reel of all these guys in their Sitka or Chiyu or First Light or whatever with brand new bows and blah blah blah. And I was like, man, I wanna be so far against the grain. I don't care if I kill a bull, if I kill a cow, if I kill a giant bull or a spike or whatever. I don't care. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it with no camouflage, with no water bottle, with no sleeping bag. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it in the most pure way that hunting can be performed. And I'm just going to take my bow and I'm going to try to sneak up on an elk wherever I can find it and try to get it done. And then cook some meat on a rock. And I'm going to present this as a message that like it's a privilege to suffer a little bit and it's a privilege to be in touch with your humanity and nothing puts you in touch with your humanity quite like a little bit of suffering like that and working so hard for something that's just a basic goal because for them it wasn't this once in a lifetime elk hunt film, it was every day, like it was just Tuesday, right?
Right.
And like
Yeah.
now you've killed this out, great, now you need to kill another one because you have like 30 people to feed.
Right.
Yeah, and so
Just
it's just anyway. I wanted that message to come across, and I kind of painstakingly edited it and put it together with a little bit of audio and stuff, and I was just very thankful that it was well received, and I thought that it came out really well. I'm very proud of the film.
yeah, as you should be, dude. Like you said, what's so cool about it is like nobody's doing nobody's doing that. And it's just so cool to see. And I feel like watching it, like you can just tell like how passionate you are about that style of hunting too. And I just loved it so much because I see a lot nowadays and I just don't want that to get lost. Like, I mean, that's who we were. Like, that's what we did. And like, we talk a lot about getting more people into hunting and stuff, and then there's kind of this next level of like, man, you don't need to spend all the money on all this crazy stuff that these marketing people are telling you need to do. Like, you kind of just got to go out there and do it. And it's just it was so cool to see that, man. I don't know, it kind of like when you're watching it, you feel like you're watching like a real life like Jim Bridger or something, and it's just so cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate it when people like. I appreciate that. I mean, I take it as a huge compliment. It's hard for me, honestly, in a lot of ways because I'm still like obviously I'm guiding for a living. I have people that want to go hunt with me, and I'm very thankful that I have people that want to do those things. It's a really tough landscape to navigate because to be successful in social media, to be successful on YouTube and all these things, you have to have product placement. You have to have these endorsements and alignments and things like that. And it's funny to me because I have such a like unique perspective where I try to tell everybody, hey, you don't need to go out. Like when I started guiding elk hunts, I was doing it in blue jeans and a flannel
Yeah.
shirt, and I'm still doing it in blue jeans and a flannel shirt, and I'm having crazy high success rates. I think I went 18 for 20 last year on big game hunters. Because I have a very high success rate, and I'm not buying into all the garbage. But because of that, I'm not getting endorsements like a lot of these guys would be. So it's harder for me to create things. Like I can't produce an ultra high quality hunt film because I don't have $30,000 coming in from First Light for me wearing zip off faces. You know what I'm saying?
I know
Like
what you mean, dude. And
yeah,
I'm also not like, I'll backtrack a little bit. I don't want to talk too much shit on that because there are people out there that are being backed by those companies, and they're using that and they're making a huge positive impact in the space,
100%.
in the world, promoting healthy lifestyles, and I love that. Like, I'm all for that. But um I don't know, dude. I think what
Everything
makes
in
you you.
moderation.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think what makes you you is like that's you. Don't be too like, well, if I had this backing, I could make it better, but better might mean, don't lose your thing either.
Right,
Yeah.
100%. No, I'm thankful to have the companies that do want to work with me and stuff like that. And then I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Like I won't forget. I don't forget who I am, where I came from, and honestly, I'm really thankful that that is where my fan base is a lot of those people are just happy to see somebody that's not paid for,
Mhm.
essentially.
Mhm.
And I don't know. Like I said, it's a tough landscape to navigate because man, I could use a camera guy. But
I'm
yeah,
sure.
but that wouldn't. I talked about it with a bunch of people and a couple of companies this year and everything about doing the hunt film. But honestly, the overwhelming feedback that I get from everybody is, man, you got to do it. You got to just keep doing it self film because that's what makes the film.
Yeah. Well, I think
And
this is even deeper. Like, dude, this is that dichotomy of art and business. The artist, you don't want to lose your craft and like what you specialize in. That's where a lot of artists think about anything. Think about music, think about like whatever. They start deviating off the path and they kind of fall apart because they're making deals in the business, and then they can't put out the art that they want to put out. Like, this is your art, bro, and like, you're an artist at what you do with these films. So it's like, if you I mean, what do I know? I don't know shit. But I just feel like as long as you keep that as like your North Star, anything else that comes is just going to be like a cool little bonus.
yeah, I hope so. I'm trying to do two films this year, and hopefully, but I know one of them is going to be awesome. I won't spoil it too much for you. And then they're both going to be good. I hope I can pull them both off. Really the editing process sucks, man.
Oh, I know. So and I was going to ask you what you had coming up, but if you don't want to spoil them, that's totally
No,
fine.
I can. I actually spoiled a little bit of one I think last week with Jaden Bales on the Hunt West podcast.
Mm.
Did
I
I
saw you
spoil
on
it?
there. Yeah.
Did I spoil it?
I think you talked about one. You talked about with your grandpa.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah. So it's gonna be cool, man. But yeah, the whole concept is basically I just wanted to make something unique. And I had a guy at church approach me, and then he was like, "Man, I love watching your films. I used to hunt backcountry, but I can't do it anymore. I haven't been on a horse in 15, 20 years." And the light bulb went off. I was like, "Man, I need to make a film that is just circa 1970 and revolves around all the values and the tools of the trade and everything for that time period, because all those guys, most of them, they can't go out and hunt anymore, right? But a lot of them have social media and they watch YouTube and they watch television and all these things. And I have quite a few followers that are in that age group from like, you know, 70 to 85. And I thought, man, it would be really cool to make something that's a tribute to those guys and also a tribute to my grandfather and all of his hunts that he went on in New Mexico and Colorado and all those things. So anyway, I'm going to be doing that, and it's going to be kind of dubbed together with some audio and some interviews of him and you know what was important to him and the culture of hunting in that time period and everything. I think it's going to be a wonderful.
Yeah, dude. That sounds awesome. Um, I definitely, people listening, go subscribe to Cade. Will not be disappointed. I I did want to mention too. Yeah, so I can relate to the editing a little bit. Like I love. I last year started filming my hunts and stuff, and it's funny. I killed 3 animals, and I have 4 hunt films. The one film that I didn't kill anything, and it was one of the first. And I just started a YouTube channel. It was one of the first videos I put out there. Is my most viewed. It got 20. I think it's at like 23,000 views.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's a
Yeah,
lot of views.
and it was so yeah for just nothing. Like in a little bit to what we were talking about. I remember specifically talking to like my mom or something as it like was blowing up, quote blowing up. But I was like, this is so cool because I had no expectation. I had no, obviously, nobody partnered with me or anything to make it. It was like just me, and it was a solo hunt in Idaho. It was just me and the camera, and it was like, what do I like in hunt films? Like, what do I like? I'm just gonna show this hunt. I don't know how it's gonna play out. Like, I'm just gonna be me in front of the camera. I'm gonna edit the ways that like I just love, how hunt films go and everything. And I was totally just myself. And it's like I put it out there again with zero expectation because it was like one of the first things I ever put on YouTube. And I totally like never checked it. Like I had nothing. And then when it kind of blew up and all these comments came in and said like this was the most realistic DIY like deer hunt, like dude you worked your ass off, like this was one of the best just regular guy hunt films I've seen. It was like that. I mean, I try not to put too much value on like how many views something got, but it did feel
Oh,
good.
man. Yeah,
It was
like
like because I just had no expect. It wasn't like, oh, this has to hit this many views or it sucks. It was just like I love this art piece of art, quote, put it out there, and then that was it. And then all
yeah,
that
it's so much.
feedback, I was like, oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so much of it is like algorithm magic, right?
Yeah,
There's good, plenty of great stuff. So like, it doesn't get massive amounts of views. The main thing is that it did well because you're being authentic, and I think that's what people appreciate is that they appreciate authentic content. And some people are more authentic than others, you know. But it's like in the especially in the hunting realm, in the content creation realm of hunting, I do think that there's a lot of appreciation for authenticity. And honestly, it shines through pretty well in a lot of films like that because people see it and they're like, "Oh man, I appreciate this guy. He's not just trying to sell me pants," you know. And
right,
and that's
right.
honestly what it comes down to, you know. And I think that's where a lot
Yeah.
of guys have done really well that have big followings. Like I don't know if you follow Ryan Gill, with
Mm-mm.
Hunt Primitive, but uh, check his YouTube out, man. Super
I will.
authentic, like ridiculously good stuff, and people appreciate it because, like, man, this guy's just doing something that nobody else is doing. You know,
Yeah.
it's super easy to appreciate.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm a fan of yours, man. So keep it up. I think yeah, just being authentic is definitely the key. And then also too, like, you know, you're doing awesome shit. So obviously, like, that helps too. So like, yeah, awesome stuff, man.
The job helps.
Yeah, yeah. Um, couple questions before we wrap up about just mountain men in general, because I feel like I think you were talking about it on Jaden's podcast. Like, kind of grew up, kind of like, I don't know if you said you were like reading about those guys or whatever, and like you just thought that's what you wanted to do. So, who's been like, what's like a favorite mountain men book or story or something that comes to mind that really inspired you?
So I loved the Mountain Men. I love the era. I've always been a really big history buff, and I love
Okay,
to
cool.
read. I don't hear very well, so I've had a hearing disability since I was a kid. So I can't really watch. I can't really get any like enjoyment out of television, and so I was always a reader. But I love the Mountain Men, and I didn't really necessarily have a particular favorite as a kid. I read about everybody and, Coulter's Run and all of those great stories and Hugh Glass, crawling to civilization and all those things. It's really amazing, larger than life men, larger than life stories. And I liked the idea of adventure. And I grew up in Texas, and I had lots of land to hunt, but it was all private land, and you're still confined, and there wasn't the big mountains, and I just wanted to be out trapping beavers in the snow somewhere, and I don't know
Yeah,
what it was. It was just inside me, right?
yeah. Just
And
being the
so that's
fur
why I
trade.
came out. Right, exactly. That's
Yeah.
why I came out and kind of found the mountains. But my biggest idol, I guess, as I got older, would have been Frank Glasser, who settled. He had cabins all over Denali, like McKinley, all that. So he kind of blazed across the Valdez Trail when he was a kid and started trapping wolves and then taming them, and he ended up being a government trapper in Alaska and helping the Inuit with the reintroduction of reindeer and stuff. I mean, he's just a really interesting guy. And there's a book by Jim Reardon called Alaska's Wolfman, and it's an
I'm gonna write this
excellent,
down.
excellent read. Huh?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
write it
write it
down.
down.
It's Alaska's Wolfman by Jim Reardon. And Jim Reardon was actually the Game and Fish Commissioner for Alaska for a while, and he ended up being governor as well. He's got a couple of really good books. He's got some about Samo White. He's got some about all kinds of different like Alaskan heroes. And so, anyways, as I was a teenager, I kind of got into all that stuff, and I thought, man, that's who I want to be. Those are the guys that I want to be, and I just always looked up to them. And as I started guiding hunts and spending more time in the Rocky Mountains and roughing it and trying to go farther, and I really soaked it all up and found my own little niche, I guess, and somehow it's worked out for me.
Well, I think there's so much power in reading about that stuff, learning about these guys, and just gaining that perspective of like, so when you're out there, there's so much power in like, if you can just put that in your brain for a second when something gets tough on like, say a guy's coming from back east, gonna go hunt out west, he's got a Colorado elk tag and he wants to go for 5 days, and like on the hike in, he's just sucking wind and he's saying this is like the hardest thing ever. There's so much power to just think about like, dude, guys did this with a hell of a lot less for a hell of a lot longer, and I've kind of used that a little bit being out there. Like, is that something you think about? Like,
Oh,
come on,
100%,
dude,
man.
let's get moving. These guys, people did this their whole lives.
One of my favorite comments to make, especially when somebody's feeling kind of down. If I have a fire going or something, and usually it's miserable outside, and people, I can just tell that maybe their confidence is fading a little bit. It's like one of my favorite statements to make. You get a hot cup of coffee, make sure everybody's got their little bit of comfort by the fire, and I say, man, could you imagine if some dude just came riding in with a spear right now and like tried to stick me? Like
Yeah,
that's what it
scalp
used to
us.
be like. Yeah, like
Yeah,
we used to be doing just like this, and then also having to fight people. Like, can you imagine how crazy that must be? Like, oh, that was just crazy. And then I just drink my coffee, and you
Yeah.
could tell that they're like, oh man, like maybe I am being a pussy.
You're like out, you're starving for days. You finally kill like an elk, and like you and like your buddies are finally eating, like finally sitting around the fire. And then sure enough, here comes like the Crow Indian, like and they're coming in just to fight you. Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
God, I
or
just
you're
sat
out.
down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you finally kill your elk and you pack it
yeah,
back to your cabin and you get back and it's burned to the ground.
yeah, yeah.
Just
And there's
okay.
so many stories like that. So I'm a big fan of like so I haven't finished the book. But Blood and Thunder, Kit Carson, a lot of
Yeah.
those guys like that just explored the West, and obviously Lewis and Clark, and just all those guys. And it was really cool learning more about, because the History Channel has a cool like little documentary series on like the mountain men and frontiersmen that's really cool. They even pick up on like Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett.
Mm.
There's really good books, and then like there's a podcast, and it's not always mountain men, like it's other things, but it's called have you ever heard it, Legends of the Old West?
I have heard of it, but I haven't
Oh, it's
actually
so
listened
good.
to
I don't know the guy's name, but like his voice is like so good. But there's really good
it.
stories, really good stories on there of like things we're talking about. And I just can't help but think like when I'm out there, like guys did it a lot, like harder, and like come on, you can't hike up on this ridge to glass, like you're a little bit dehydrated, like I don't know, I think there's a lot of power in that, and it's really
Yeah,
fun to just hear those stories.
yeah. I mean, I think that that's the beauty of the mountains, right? Is that they're timeless. So that when you're out there, regardless of what you're doing, you can sit down and appreciate the same hardships that your ancestors from a bajillion years ago, dealt with, right? And there's so much power in that, and that's why everybody talks about their, connection with nature. Your connection with nature is suffering. That is your connection with nature. That's what's amazing about it, is that your suffering outside is the same as Adam and Eve's suffering outside, and it's a beautiful thing. And that's where we appreciate things.
I like how you just said that, like the suffering is the beautiful thing. That's kind of
Yeah,
how you have to
100%.
look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting, dude. And then one other show I really enjoyed watching was I always get it wrong, the year 1885, I think. I always say it wrong, but when it's like the spinoff of Yellowstone, but back in
Oh,
the
I've never seen
1800s.
it.
Oh, dude, like I watched Yellowstone a little bit. I was like, this is a little like played up Hollywood. But this one is like the family starting in, where'd they start? Somewhere back east or down south, but then going on the Oregon Trail,
Oh
and
yeah.
trying to get to Oregon, and they're with all these like these other these other people and these covered wagons, and just dealing with like the Indians and just everything, and like people. Actually, this is really interesting thing about too, like in all these stories of the mountain men and stories like that on the Oregon Trail, like just how often people died and people killed each other. I remember
Hmm.
listening to a Meat Eater podcast, and Steve Rinella was telling stories about, back in the day. And he was just like, people don't understand, like death was all the time.
Yeah,
They were
every day.
always burying people, and it's just so wild to think about.
Yeah, nowadays people are not accustomed to death. It's really funny that you brought that up because I was in Salt Lake City the other day, and yeah, I was just driving, and I was like, man, no wonder the Mormons killed everybody over this place. Like, it's beautiful. Like, I would have killed everybody too to settle here. What a cool place.
There's a show right now on Netflix. I haven't watched it at all, but my cousin told me all about like the Mormons, and yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty effective method. Like, they're still there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But just so interesting to watch, read, listen to those things, really understand like what hard times could have looked like. And then when you and your buddy are out on your elk hunt, just hiking around, you got all your food, you got all your 0-degree sleeping bags, you got all your everything. Like you're fine. If you have to walk back a little bit in the dark to get back to camp, like you're fine. I think
Right.
people really sell themselves short.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that mental toughness is just a huge aspect of backcountry hunting. Period. And if you let those things get in the way of the success of your hunt or like the success of your memory making during the hunt, because obviously, killing isn't always the metric for success, right? But I think that a lot of people do themselves a disservice by getting down and then letting themselves kind of just go down that downward spiral. You got to stop, drink some water, relax, enjoy where you're at, sit down and laugh about it. Say, man, I'm so uncomfortable or I'm so miserable or it sucks, it's dark out here. And then kind of laugh about it and enjoy it for that, type A type of fun or whatever you call that.
Yeah.
I wish that more people would put themselves outside their comfort zones because it would improve the rest of their lives gratefully.
Yeah. And I'm not nearly the backcountry hunter or woodsman I want to be yet, but every year I try to make more and more strides. And it's funny, like you brought that up, and I know you're buddies with Cliff Gray.
Mm-hmm.
He has like a video, a big thing, and I've mentioned it a few times on the podcast about like what it's titled like what ruins most hunters like or elk hunters hunt or something, and you watch him talk and he says no, the biggest thing is people can't manage stress. It's stress management, basically the
100%.
mental side of things. And I try to I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I think it can be a skill that's further developed. For example, like I probably was on my first trip a little bit scared to walk back far in the dark. Now I do a lot of moving in the dark when I'm out west in the mountains. It's just you just get more and more used to it. I would start doing weekend trips here back east before I even went out west because I said one day I want to be like one of those crazy guys that hunts high country mule deer for like 14 days in a row, you know? So I was like, well, I'll just start back east here on a weekend, like in state forest. I remember being like more scared then of like a bear versus then like how I operate out there now. So I think it just comes with reps, and I'm always trying to make sure I'm doing things every year to even push it a little further. Like I just had John Barklow on from Sitka. And he talked about the skill of just putting together improvised shelters out there. You know, you're chasing elk, gets dark, you don't want to go all the way back to camp, just throw up a little something. And I'm like, man, that's such a good tool to have in the toolkit to be comfortable doing that. And I told him, and I'm going to try this year, as long as like my hunting partner knows where I'm at and there's no like real risk, like we're not getting in real harm's way. But I want to do that like for a night. Like if I get on an elk herd or I get on a good area to stalk a mule deer, like the next day, I just want to be able to like message him and be like, hey, I got my puffy, I got a tarp, I'm good. Just want to do that because that's just something I haven't done before. So I'm rambling, but I think guys can work at it. Is my point.
Oh, 100%, man. And don't be nervous on the tarp thing. Like I haven't carried a tent in like years. I only
I know, dude. I say all this and then I watch you like, all right, I'm just gonna lie down on the dirt here with an elk hide and I'm good.
Dude, no, the tarp is way more versatile though than any tent. Like you're gonna be a believer if you try it. Shoot me a message if you have any questions. I'll see you some videos and stuff. I'm setting up some really cool like shelter tarp setups. It's way better than I. It's like it's funny because people look at the tarp and they're like, "Oh, that guy sits under a tarp," and I look at people and I'm like, "What are you with a tent?" Because like, your tent is just it's like it's only a tent. Like it's never more than a tent. And a tarp, I can do anything, man. I can set up shelters. I've set up shelters before. I'll put it to you this way. I've been in miserable situations before on steep side hills where I made my tarp an L, where I was like just dug a hole to sit in and fall asleep while it just dumped rain around me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can't do that with a tent.
No. Mm-mm.
You can't do it. I mean, so the tarp is super versatile. I could ramble about that for a while. I get all like crazy with the sticky notes and stuff on like why tarps are better. I get a little silly about it.
Well, you got the reps, dude. For sure. And I don't know. That's the last thing. Maybe I'll leave you with here. Do you think mental toughness is something people can really work at, or do you think it's something more people are born with that like you either have it or you don't? Maybe a mix, or maybe a mixed bag. What do you think?
No, I think 100% everybody can build their mental toughness. I think that your mental toughness is an extension of your open-mindedness, right? Because if you're open-minded enough to encounter a little bit of discomfort and suffering, then because you have that open mind and you're able to be a little uncomfortable, then you're able to learn the lessons from being uncomfortable, and then you're able to apply those lessons later on. And now that you've applied those lessons, your confidence grows. So you're a little less uncomfortable because you got more confidence, and it just continues to go forever. And that's how people go and do these crazy things like climbing Mount Everest. A guy doesn't just buy a set of crampons to go climb Everest, right? He's got to climb all those mountains metaphorically and literally before
Right.
he can go climb Everest, right? And it's the same with backcountry hunting and things like that. Like you're talking about doing a couple nights on state land out back east, man. That's perfect. I wish more guys would do that. I wish more guys would be comfortable to put themselves out of their comfort zone, camp without their tent, camp without this, camp without that, go without, without having extra food. Like maybe try to shoot their bow from an uncomfortable shooting position. Try to shoot their rifle, bipedal, all these different things. If you can kind of get over your little bit of small failures and build your confidence, that overwhelmingly becomes mental toughness, right? And it applies to every little bit of life, not just hunting. It applies to us as far as our relationships and our finances. And you with the ridiculous running, you know what I'm saying? Like that is like that's mental toughness. Okay, all right, I'm gonna be uncomfortable. I'm gonna hurt myself. How can I learn from those lessons? And then ultimately, being uncomfortable builds confidence. So I think that that's a topic I could go on. I could ramble for like 3 hours about it because I spent a lot of my younger life very uncomfortable, and my cause and effect were super close, right? Like I'm living on the beach. I have like $10. Okay, so I have to be able to do something, create a cause that's going to have a positive effect. And that's the thing about being in the woods, and that's the thing that I love about guiding hunts and being in the mountains and working with horses, is that all of my cause and effects are super closely related,
Hmm.
right? If I do
Interesting.
something
Yeah.
stupid, if I do something stupid and make this horse do something stupid, the effect is almost instantaneous. I'm going to get hurt, right? If I'm trying to hunt this elk and I make a bad decision, then my cause of a bad decision is almost immediately answered with an effect of ruining that hunt. And so the closer that your cause and effect are, the quicker that you learn. And I think it becomes a little bit easier in our civilized lives. Our cause and effect are so far apart that it's easier to just get by with making bad decisions. Well, if I don't pay this bill, it'll be 3 months before they can kick me out. So whatever. But when
Right.
you're in the mountains, it's like, well, if I don't get a proper shelter made right now, I might die. And it's like
Yeah.
a 3 hour span, right? And that's where we get joy from the outdoors. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
opinion.
I love kind of that whole spiel there because yeah, I think how you think. I think pretty much most everything can be a skill.
Come on, Cliff.
What's up, man?
Come on.
I think uh I think everything is a skill that can be further developed. And I've never really thought about it like that. Like basically your rate of learning. What's up, man?
This is my son,
Is that your
Cliff.
boy?
Yep. This is Cliff Cole.
What's up, Cliff?
What's
He's
up?
gonna be a big elk killer one day.
Hopefully. All right.
Awesome. But anyway, yeah, no, just how fast that cause and effect is basically your rate of learning, and how fast you can learn things is how fast you can build skills. So I
100%.
love that. Yeah, and you're right. In our day to day, that cause and effect is so delayed. People don't even. It's so delayed. People don't even marry them together. That's why people probably have just like a fixed mindset on things because
Right,
they don't see
100%.
the effect. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And then like having that close relationship, it's that instantaneous, and it's like yeah, I mean, there's so much about it that you could apply to every bit of your life, right?
Yeah. That's what I love it. That's what I love about it. I love about all of it. All right, dude. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do want to hear about. So you are a guide. When does your? I mean, we're recording this August 21st. When does your fall really kick off? And
Yeah, I
if you
leave
want to talk
here
a
in
little bit more about that.
I leave here in a couple days. Me and Cliff Gray have got some bear hunts going in the flat tops. I'm gonna do a week of bear hunts. Then I'll be bouncing up back to Wyoming. I've got 2 weeks of high country mule deer hunts. I go back to Colorado for a mountain goat hunt after that, and then I'll be I think I'll be back to Wyoming for an elk hunt. I'll be filming an elk hunt with Kafaru, and
Nice.
then after that, I don't remember. And then after that, more Colorado elk hunts. I think. I mean, it's a crazy year.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. All right, dude. So we'll wrap up. Where can people find you, your Instagram, YouTube channel, all that stuff?
Yeah, so my YouTube is Cade Cole, and probably best way to find me is either the 80 Mile Elk or Archaic, because they're my two most popular films. Instagram, I'm Colin Cade Cole. On Facebook, I'm just Cade Cole. And I say it every time I do one of these podcasts. I don't know why, man, but my Instagram is just, it doesn't do well. I'll post something on Facebook, it'll get 200,000 views. Post it on Instagram, be lucky to get 3. It's like the algorithms don't like it.
I don't know. I feel like Instagram's a little bit more weird. I try to I can't even like I try to find patterns in things like to try to get things to, grow and get better and whatever. And Instagram's just really weird. YouTube, it seems like it's a little bit more favorite to like the creator. Like if your shit's good and people are watching it, it's just gonna take off. But then yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, man. I don't know. It's like nerd witchcraft. But I do agree. The YouTube thing is cool because it seems like if something is of quality and people like it, YouTube's like, oh, hey, this isn't bad. Like you should watch it.
Yeah, regardless of like your following or whatever is trendy, like it's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody listening, go check those out. Go watch those hunt. I got to watch the other one. I got to watch 80 Mile.
Oh, yeah,
I've
you
seen
gotta watch
Archaic.
it. Good.
I got to watch that one. So, go check those out. Go follow Cade. He's just doing it the hard way, and he's doing it right, which is just awesome to see. And then people want to go watch you on alone. Yeah, you can go to the History Channel and just you can click on all the seasons, but season 10, watch Cade on there. All good stuff. But yeah, dude, really enjoyed this chat. Appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, dude. All right, I'll let you go. Everybody, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. See ya. Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.